Yes. Um, so we will continue the previous day's topic, that is the input output of our microprocessor computer architecture part. So here you will see that we have already seen, or we have already told, that whenever we are actually communicating with our system, right? So how actually this communication will be taking place? That means how you will send information or instruction or any command to your system, and how they will react. So there are lots of sections, lots of buses, lots of connections. So how they are managing, right? Then input output example also, that different kinds of input output we have already read them. We also read them that these all are as a whole termed as peripheral devices. Now in these peripheral devices there are memory mapped IO, there are isolated IO. Okay, and sometimes we have checked that the control line, read write control lines, in addition to memory control lines, sometimes we have seen that a single set of read write control lines which is being shared actually by the memory location and by the IO addresses. Okay, so all of these things we have seen. Now parallelly, what we have already observed, that whenever you are using this input output devices or input output mechanism with respect to our system, then we also observed that between the bus and the input output devices there is one interface. So how this interface was acting, how they are creating the connections between the buses and the devices. Okay, these things also discussed, just like whenever you are considering this input output device, the control circuit will create an interface between the control line and your device. The data and status registers will create one interface between the data lines and input device. Now here what the point has been written as data lines, address lines, control lines, they are actually the buses, because this thing already has been mentioned, they are actually the buses. So now you can see that whenever you are creating this connection, all the informations are carrying throughout this through these buses. And later we also observed one problem type of thing, or you can say one example type of thing, that whenever you are creating one IO interface with your CPU and IO device, then how they are actually operating or how they are actually reacting. So in that case, we have seen that if you are using some registers like port A, port B, port C, and port D, where we have mentioned that different operations for different register, like one is data, another is command, another is control unit, another is status register. So how this thing are actually activated based on which signal, based on at which point which signal will be activating and which will be reacting. So all these things we have seen, right? Then another thing, just like bidirectional data bus, then just like say what we can say, that bidirectional data bus, then bus buffers. Okay, and later we see that whenever you are thinking about this CPU, that means this processing unit, just like this part, just like this part. And then we have observed that here some what I can say, some select lines were there, just like chip select, register select 1, 2. Okay, then IO read, IO write, just like what we did in our memory connection to CPU. That means how your RAM chips are connected to the CPU and ROM chips are connected to the CPU, just like this. So here some truth table also has been designed, right? And we have seen that if you are writing this chip select 0, then irrespective of RS1, RS0, it is a high impedance state because you are not selecting any chips. And then based on this selection, this RS chip select 1 has been, chip select is 1, that means chip select is active, this one is active. Then based on the values of this and this, any one of them will be activating. So that means a decoder will be used intermediate connection. Okay. So then later we see that how your asynchronous data transfer will work, how your synchronous data transfer will work. In mode of synchronous, there is no problem. You can see that all these things are going on at the same clock pulse. In case of asynchronous, there is different time. So that means whenever you will send, then you have to wait for some information that you will sure that yes, your destination has actually received the data. Then sometimes your destination should know that whether the source has sent this data. Okay, so all of these things are quite problematic sometimes. That means after sending, you may be worrying that whether your destination has received this data, or your destination will wait for the signal whether you have released this data. So all of these things can be managed by the handshaking protocol. Okay, then the other one was the strobe pulse. Okay, so strobe was just like one strobe pulse applied by one unit to indicate other unit when the transfer has to occur. That means in the handshaking, you are just waiting to get this information that whether your source or destination has released or received this data respectively. But in case of strobe, you will know, or you will get information by the strobe function that whether the transfer need to be occurred or not. So this type of all this discussion was done on the last class, right? So you can expect some one-liner questions from here, just like in case of handshaking. Say we have given one condition that system A or port A release this data, port B will receive this data by intermediate time, blah blah blah. All of conditions will be given, and you will be asked whether it will be requiring a strobe pulse or a handshaking pulse, right? So this type of questions you can expect here. Maybe in case of asynchronous synchronous data transfer, we are giving one option, just like when your different component are using different clock pulses, right? In that case, how you will manage them. So that is also one option. Then in case of asynchronous also, just like we are giving the same clock pulse and we are asking whether it is asynchronous or synchronous mode of transfer. According to you, what is the correct answer? Okay, so this type of short questions will be there, and one numerical problem I will also upload it in LMS based on this. So one numerical problem you will get, okay, expected based on this. But in that case of numerical, what we will do, just like think about that problem what you did in case of ALU, right? So we just created the structure and we asked that please drag and drop the options, what is correct according to you. So this type of thing may be given in this case. Okay, and I hope that you are aware about that. Almost 8 to 9 practice set has been uploaded, so you can get some glimpse about that what type of problems we are going to give in term, right? So anytime any problem, you will definitely knock, definitely ask. So later when we will move further, that with this, what I can say, with these details of this input output, that after this handshaking and strobe, there are three major mechanisms. One is program control input output, that is processor polls the device, then interrupt, and then direct memory access. So these are actually some mechanism through which your input output actually taking place. So one common name is there, that is interrupt. Right? You have read this thing. We have seen this thing in our lab part. We have taken some subroutine where we are discussing the subroutine. There we discussed it. Parallelly, when we taught this microprocessor pin diagram, there were some pins which were associated with this interrupt signal, right? So from that part, you can think that this interrupt is quite interesting, just like how it will act with your system. And parallelly, whenever you will read this program control IO, that is also an important part according to also DMA. So we will gradually move further one by one, just like programmed controlled input output. So previously, what type of input output we have seen? We have seen that our memory mapped IO and isolated IO, right? And we termed that all these things as in peripheral devices. So those were actually based on your what I can say, based on your memory address sharing, that you are sharing the same address or you are operating from a distinct address. So in that case, you will be informed, you will be termed as memory mapped input output or isolated input output. So now in terms of operation, right? Because what we are seeing that three major mechanisms. So that means in terms of operation, you have also one kind of IO, that is program control input output, right? So first let us only read that what is being discussed here. Just like input output device operate at speeds that are very much different from that of the processor. Keyboard, for example, is slower in speed than processor. In this method, the processor constantly checks the status flag. When it finds that the flag is set, it performs the appropriate operation. So now forget about everything and just think that whenever you need to copy some data, right, from some external device. Let me give the example that you have connected one external, what I can say, external storage, any kind of. So you are basically connecting this thing, and you are, if you are trying to run any program from that external device, obviously that time your runtime will be much higher, right? Just like you are trying, previously it was more closely observed, it was a time when we used this Pentium 3 or Pentium 2 type of systems. And that time you observe that if you are trying to play any movie from a CD player, and you are trying to play any movie from the hard disk storage, then completely different reaction time you will see. Just like if you are seeing that you are running it from your system, it will quite fast. It will start and it will be running quite faster. But if you are running it from this drive, then it will just act like it some discrete kind of motion we observed at that time. Right now also you can see that the example what is given here, that keyboard, for keyboard part. Obviously this keyboard is slower in speed than your processor, because whenever you are giving some input, okay, it will check lots of signal, lots of supporting signals. Just like whenever you are giving some input for running any program, you may enter some big data, but that data may not be uh, properly managed by your program, because maybe it is an example of overflow, right? So status flag can send this message to processor that your system will not be able to do this thing, because it has been given larger data than it can manage, right? Just like another example, say for example, we did this ALU operation, right? And in case of ALU, whenever we are reading this addition subtraction, we observed that at that time when you were performing this addition subtraction using this flowchart part, or using the sign magnitude addition subtraction part, what we observed that there is one AVF flag, right? And what we read at that time, that if you are taking n number of bits, right, n number of bits for addend, n number of bits for oggend, then obviously if in some of the cases, whenever you are using a high end data, at that in those cases there may be overflow occur, right? So in that cases we were first checking that whether your E is 1 or not, right? The simply carry is 1 or not. Then we were observing that whether you can manage with this carry, or whether you need to put it in the add overflow flag register, all of these things. So that means whenever this add overflow flag register will send this information that yes, you are handling much higher data or much bigger data, right? Then it will be obviously give you output separately. It will not process the data, and it will send you the error message. So that means whatever you are giving in this through this keyboard, that will not actually work at the same time. So lots of process, lots of flags are being checked, and then it will decide that what kind of information should be processed or not. So who will decide this? Processor will decide this, depending on the flags, right? That is why if you check this diagram again, this data and status registers. So input device. Now think that this is your keyboard, right? And to this keyboard you are giving some input data. right? These data and status registers are connecting with these data lines. So data lines has some specific width. Now through this keyboard, you are giving a huge long data to run your program. Right? Say you are performing any MIPS program and it can manage 32-bit data, and you have given simply here you are typing a long data. So how this data line will react? It will first get slower. It will check the status register. Then the status will send the signal to the processor that yes, a lot more bigger data has been given as an input. I can't manage it. Then your data and status register, through status register, this information will be passed. Data register will check the width of data and it will send the error message. The overflow kind of error message will be sent. Okay, so this kind of thing will be done at that time based on your status flag, status registers, right? So these are actually termed as program controlled IO. Where was I actually? Yes, the program control input output. Okay, so now what type of thing can be given to you? Maybe one example has been created that say you are running a program in your Mars simulator where you have been asked to enter a data which width is 32-bit. Now I will write some data that you have entered this data following by blah 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 lot long data I have given, right? Then you may be asked that how your processor will react. How your processor will react. So some options will be given that your status flag will send one error message, or your status flag will send one overflow message, or we can write that there will be no error, everything will be done properly, or you can write that some of the result will be shown up to which it can manage, and last one is none of the above. If these four options is given, then obviously it is true that your processor will show an error message, right? Just like you have mentioned one another example you can think about, that you have mentioned one integer type of data, right? Or no, you have mentioned floating point operation, right? And you are using V0 system call code as 3 or 2, say 2 is for floating point input. Now when you are giving the input data, you are not using the floating point registers, right? You are not using the F registers. Rather than you are using S or T register to get the input, right? So this is properly an error, right? Completely an error, because your program control input output system has given you this information that whenever you will manage through this what I can say floating point operation, you must need to use these F registers. So in that case, you can't use this register which is specifically mentioned for this word, the integer part, like S, like T, all these registers you can't use. So in that case, the status flag will check, control flag will check that what kind of thing is being done. So they will send the error message, and who will show this error message to you? Whenever in program you will run this program, in this below screen, you will get this error message. Okay. So this kind of thing, actually we have done lots of time. If you think anytime that what kind of thing is being happened when we are getting some system error, when we are getting some input output error, or when we are getting some linker error. So different example obviously in front of your hand, and you can simply Just think them and you can manage them properly. So these were only 3 lines I have written here. I have not made these slides too much big. Program control IO, only 3 lines I have written, but lots of things are there. Just you are asked to only think what is being happened in case of program control IO. No need to read always. If you just look around your system, look around your program and what you are doing actually in several projects, in several works, you will get almost every example ready in front of you in case of this course. Right? And just relate this thing, think properly without every time searching in Google. Just like if any example or any question I have given, don't copy it, copy and paste it in the Google bar and just check it and then count and me said this thing has been written there in this format. So how you will manage it or how you can cut it down like this. Okay, so just use your thinking, you will definitely get better. You can do better actually. Okay, so now we are moving to the interrupt part. So when we are observing this interrupt part, we can see that in this overview, if you think about just if we read that in program control input output, the programs enters a wait loop in which it repeatedly tests the device status. During this period, the processor is not performing any useful computation. However, in many situations, other tasks can be performed while waiting for an input-output device to become ready. Let the device alert the processor. So, what has been written in these points, in these 3 points? Just think that it is being written that whenever you are trying to give any input-output through some external devices, right, or you are trying to connect your input-output device to any of your program, and you have given some input data, just like what the example I was saying that I have given a long data as a MIPS program input. So it will check that whether this data is possible to be managed or not, right? So that means at that time, in that particular time actually, your will not do anything because it is checking that whether the given data is properly can be properly managed or not, like this, right? But that is being informed that in some cases, some other task can be performed. That means it is checking whether for that particular program your input data is properly given or not, or your system can be managed with this input data or not. So all these things is done properly. That is okay, no problem. But if you are thinking that you have to do some other task, okay, in some cases, your processor may be allowed to do some other task without waiting ideally, right? So that means in that cases, your device will alert your processor that yes, you are doing this task. So sometimes need to wait. That is perfectly fine, no problem. But parallelly, you can do this task also. So all these things actually somehow managed, right? Just like think that you are entering in a for loop, right? So this for loop execution is going on. So there is some other mathematical condition, some checking, all these things, and this loop is gradually continuing 100 times or 1000 times, whatever maybe. But at the same time, if your processor just become idle and only is doing on that task, only on that task, then your system will actually lost its efficiency, right? So that means your device will alert the processor that yes, you can do this task, no problem, but parallelly you can do this task also. So how we can just relate it in our daily life? Think that I am creating you pressure to complete the lab assignment. Okay, but you are in the middle of your DTI project, right? In between, I have scheduled one quiz, right? So now it's time to say I have fixed the quiz on around 7 o'clock at evening. You are doing your DTI project also. maybe some milestone number 3 or 4, whatever need to be achieved, you are waiting for that. And parallelly, you have to submit your lab assignment also.
Sir, at what time, sir?
Which time?
Sir, the quiz you said, na?
Oh, what I told at the initial phase of the class. Okay, suddenly you are asking in between of this
No, sir.
discussion.
Right now you were saying something because of
I
the.
am giving some example. I am giving the example of this interrupt. Okay, so I am coming to your point. I will give you maybe in coming week 29th or 30 in this range.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Say for example, actually, I am saying that how you can manage with all of your tasks through this interrupt signal. Okay, so just let me give 1 minute. Okay, so what we were discussing, that we were giving some example in that case when we can manage with all of our tasks with interrupt. Just like say for example, what I gave you 3 options. Maybe that you have lab assignment submission date today. You have a quiz has been fixed on today evening, and you have DTI project to complete, milestone number 3 or 4, whatever maybe. So what should be the ideal solution? First, you will ask me that, sir, please extend the lab's assignment submission date. It is quite easier solution because if you ask me, I will extend, right? So first thing you will ask, then I will extend the date. So that means now you can think that yes, we have some more time for our DTI project, right? So that means a processor has informed this assignment submission process that you may execute afterwards. You may execute after some time. Thus, the students can manage their other tasks smoothly today, right? This is one process. Then how another you can manage it, that at the time 7 o'clock I fix the quiz. So you will stop your DTI project work from 6 o'clock and you will just have a overlook on the quiz syllabus, that what is being asked in the quiz like this. Okay, so then for 1 hour you will not do any other thing. So at that time you will just delaying your DTI project work. Where first you are sending one interrupt signal to the assignment submission part, then you are sending one interrupt signal to this DTI project work part, and you are just completing your quiz. So once your quiz is done, then your one task is completed. Then you can start back your DTI project work. So once the DTI project work will be done, you can go for the lab assignment submission, because submission date has been extended up to 2 days or 3 days. So that means you have some time, some more time in your hand, right? So accordingly you can manage. So that means in this case of interrupt, whenever you are entering in these phases, your system can inform your processor that when you need to wait or when you need to operate, or how many times do you need to wait. So all these things. Now the point is enabling and disabling interrupt. So you can see, or if you remember, whenever we were reading this microprocessor pin diagram, there were some pins which were associated with this interrupt, right? So that means through these pins, these interrupts can be managed, right? So that means interrupt request can come anytime. It may alter the sequence of events from that predicted by the programmer. Interrupts must be controlled. Just like anytime you will see anything, that sir, please change this date, change this date, change this date. Every date cannot be changed, right? We are trying to our best how much we can alter, right? Say you are asking me to change the assignment submission date. So I can change from Monday to Saturday, no problem. But I cannot change from this Monday to the Monday after 3 months because the semester will be end within 1 month. So I cannot give the submission date after 3 months, right? So that means in a range, it need to be controlled. Uncontrolled way alteration is not possible, right? So that is the point, that enabling and disabling the interrupt signal. Now the interrupt request signal will be active until it learns that processor has responded to its request. Let the interrupt be enabled, disabled by the interrupt service routine. Let the processor automatically disable interrupt before the starting of the execution. So that means think that your processor will act depending on your execution of the interrupt signal. So that means whether your interrupt is executing or interrupt is need to be executed in some near future or interrupt service need to be stopped. So everything can be managed programmatically. You have written some program where you have called some interrupt signal. In the MIPS part also interrupt signal can be called, right? And particular processor, we have some specific pins also for the interrupt signal. If you remember, INTR was written there. One was INTR, one was INTA, right? So one was INTR, that is the interrupt signal, and another was interrupt acknowledgement, INTA. So sometimes when you will see this interrupt part, you will see two types of signal. One is INTR, one is INTA. So INTR is for interrupt, you are passing this interrupt, and another is INTA. That means yes, you will receive an interrupt acknowledgement that yes, I am right now in interrupting phase. So I will stop now for execution, or I will wait for some time to execute like this. Okay, and if you go in some other way, just like vector interrupt, that is also another very important part. Just like what I can say, yes, just like railway track, right? In railway track, there are maybe sometimes a single railway track and lots of trains are moving here and there, right? So there is some control. If you observe that there is a single line and some train is going towards left to right and some also train is coming from right to left. So in some section when there is a changing line or some station, some change lines were there. So there some train will be keep side and one of the train will be passing fast. Then the other train will be moving. So all these things is quite common, we have seen. So in your data processing or your interrupt signal managing, this case is also there. Right. So as all these things are being passed to some bus, so that means you can manage all this interrupt signal in a vectored way to avoid the bus collision. Right. So that means there will be some special code will be sent from the processor to the processor by the bus. Then depending on the special codes, it will be taking decision that whether it need to be stopped or need to be execute. Okay, or it need to change its execution line. So all these things can be managed. Just like the example in the diagram we can see, right? So processor, device 1, device 2, device n, different devices are there, and you are connecting through this processor from this processor to the device and from this device to the processor. So you can see INTR and INTA, both signals are there. So this INTR actually the interrupt signal, right? So it is actually active low. So keep in mind why it is active low, because when you will specifically send a 0 in this signal, then it will be activating. That means your work is going on properly. So that means you have sent 1. At that time, no interrupt will be there, right? You are doing some work. That means you are in some work, a one stage, a true stage. That means interrupt is not working. But if you are not doing any work, you don't need to work. You need to wait. You needn't delay. You need to stop working. So that means you are in not working stage. That means you are in 0 state. So at that time your interrupt will be activated. That is why it is a active low type of signal. Right? And parallelly you are getting interrupt acknowledgement. That means if you are device 1 and you are sending interrupt 1 signal, then device will revert back with a interrupt acknowledgement. right? So this processor will actually wait there, and processor will inform that yes, your priority arbitration circuit is there, which will set the priority that what kind of interrupt you will need to accept, or what kind of interrupt you need to just ignore. All these things you can think about. Okay, so this was the process that how you can manage the more number of interrupts in a single word. It is being termed as interrupt nesting, right? So single solution is only accept one interrupt at a time, then disable all others. Problem, some interrupts cannot be held too long. So what you will do, you need to manage some priority structure, that this interrupt will come first, then this interrupt will come, like this. Okay, so later if you move on, you will see some other simultaneous requests regarding this interrupt signals. Okay, so we will actually stop here today, and we will see that how these interrupts are. We have seen that how these interrupts are actually managing your system, and how you will your system will revert back in response to this interrupt request. All these things. Okay, so also there are some exception. What type of exception is there? How we will recover some errors or other thing? All these things also are there. Okay, now this part will be kept for your own reading. So this part will not covered here. DMA. Next day we will. I am thinking to start with some numerical problems of pipeline tomorrow. Okay, and day after tomorrow, that means Wednesday, it will be your, no, tomorrow you don't have any class. So day after tomorrow, that means Wednesday you have one guest lecture, and after this guest lecture we are planning to have some numerical problems on Thursday. Okay, so one problem will be on this interrupt, this signal, this part, where it goes, actually this part. One numerical we will discuss from this part, and some other numericals we will discuss regarding some extended pipelining part. Okay,